Good morning. I appreciate you guys coming out. I do want it to be duly noted that I got in here without a credential today. So it's the first time I've gotten through that door there after the news I heard yesterday. Thanks, Greg. I really appreciate the leadership he provides for us. I've been very fortunate to have 9 years. I mean, that is just crazy to think about. This is my 9th one of these, and you know, Greg has done a tremendous job from every meeting I've ever been in, from every issue we've ever dealt with the ever-changing flow of college sports. The guy's incredible in the room with us, and I appreciate it. And I enjoyed Greg's message yesterday about all the other sports in the SEC. Look, I am a son of the SEC. I counted 30 years since I went to the University of Georgia in 1994. 25 of the last 30 years I've spent in the SEC. I love bragging about that, and I love bragging about our sports. There's not a sporting event that I don't go to in Athens, Georgia, and watch the highest level of competition in all sports. So a lot of credit goes out to all the other sports in the SEC, and this event is a chance to honor that, and I thought Greg did a great job of that yesterday. Just had a media member hit me with this, and I wanted to share it. Seth Emerson, one of the national writers, just hit me a few minutes ago. We were talking about the 9 years, and he had a great line from the Indiana Jones movie I watched growing up. My brother Carl always loved Indiana Jones, but the great line was, "It's not the years, it's the mileage." And I tell you, being an SEC head coach, that's a true statement. It's not the years, it's the mileage. And it's been a great 9-year run for us at Georgia. But I'll start a little bit with my family. Yesterday was the 18th year anniversary of my wife and I, Mary Beth, and we are excited and honored to have spent nine of those 18 years in Athens, Georgia, where both of us were student athletes. We got to spend that anniversary in the great city of Savannah at a Little League baseball game. So you do what you have to do to spend time with your kids, and we certainly enjoy that. My 16-year-old twins, who I like talking about, they're rising juniors now. I don't know geography, and I don't know how well you guys know geography, but I have one who is in Fiji, and I have one who is in Croatia on trips. And I looked at the globe last night, and it's hard for me because I'm a Southeastern Conference baby. I'm not a very worldly gentleman, but I have one in Fiji and one in Croatia, and I don't think you could be 2 further points apart from each other that they are right now. But they're enjoying those trips and getting to kind of develop and further themselves. My wife loves traveling. I don't. And she kind of one-upped me this year when I had a chance to go with my youngest son to Cooperstown, which Greg mentioned, and I had an unbelievable time in Cooperstown. Got to visit the Baseball Hall of Fame and play in a lot of baseball games, and then went to Mississippi with my youngest son for a baseball tournament and spent 3 or 4 days there. My wife decided to go to Amsterdam and go to Taylor Swift concert. So she is a huge Taylor Swift fan and took my twins there and said, if you're going to go all around the world playing baseball, I'm going to go to Amsterdam and enjoy Taylor Swift, which she's a big fan of. The 3 guys we got here today, I want to speak on behalf of those guys, but I want to give you a quick story to show you when you know you're getting old, and it got me yesterday. Not to pick on Coach Saban, because I got a lot of kind words to say about him coming up, but you know, I always thought that like, oh man, Coach, I thought I saw him as older when he was coaching, and I saw myself as younger, and now I'm looking at it like, man, I'm old. I'm riding in the car yesterday with Michael, Malachi, and Carson Beck. We're coming from the airport to the hotel, and I'm sharing conversation with Michael and Malachi. And of course, what's everybody talking about yesterday? What's all college football players talking about? NCAA football game, right? The new game that's out. And I'm just trying to get in the conversation and talk to them about it. And I said, man, that game's pretty awesome. And they're like, yeah, I can't wait to get to the hotel, and I'm going to play it tonight. And everybody's talking about it. It's all over. It's trending. It's all over everything. And I was like, how do they keep that thing in stores? It's got to sell out. How do they keep it in stores? And Michael and Malachi just fell out laughing. And they're like, Coach, they don't sell those things in stores anymore. They're not in the stores. And I was so embarrassed, but I was glad they got a kick out of that because it made me realize how out of touch I actually am with how far things have come. You can just download it and go play. It's that simple. So the stores don't have to keep it. But the three guys we brought today, Carson Beck, Malachi Starks, Michael Williams, Carson's parents, Tracy and Chris, done a wonderful job with him. He is a great example of college football. The day and age when you go somewhere and you jump school to school, it's a popular trend. This kid stuck it out. He stuck it out now, and he didn't get the starting job in a tough moment when the starter went down, and he lost the starting job to Stetson Bennett the week of UAB game 2 years ago, and then said, you know what? I'm sticking with it. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to show resiliency, which is one of our core traits, and he did that. And he was able to monetize that value as well in form of NIL by staying and succeeding actually where his feet are. But he's a great leader for us. He's a great example of resiliency in college football. Please visit with him today as he's one of the leaders of our team. Malachi, he's such an incredible kid. His mom Tisha and Larry, they do a great job with him. It was a joy recruiting him. He's a local kid. He started for us since day one. So all the knocks and all the things said out there about you can't start as a freshman at Georgia, it's too hard to play on defense. The first game he ever was in against Oregon, he started, and he started ever since. He's a quiet, humble leader. He's a very Christian young man, and he represents our university the right way, and I'm really proud to have Malachi here today. And then Michael Williams, his mom, Shamika, and John are both great people, and what a great job they've done with Michael. He's become very versatile for us in terms of what he does on the field, but there's no greater value than what he does in that locker room because he works every day. He's physical. He enjoys practice. He's a great leader for us, and he should be a huge asset for us. But please enjoy those guys and visit with them as they're indicative of the locker room we have and great guys to be around. Couple words I want to say to Coach Saban, who meant so much to me in my career. First of all, the words he shared at the ESPYs the other night were incredible, very touching, very moving. But what he's meant to myself, my family, as a mentor, as a friend, as a competitor that drives you to get better. There's never a day in 11 years I worked for him that we didn't share a room in some sort, whether that was the defensive room, defensive back room, staff room. We didn't share a room in some sort. And I think it made me who I am today because the demand for excellence is met by none other than him. So that standard that he set for me day in and day out, he met himself. And every coach that ever worked with him or for him will tell you that he does it all himself as well. He doesn't hold you to any different standard than he holds himself to. So a lot of the success I've had, I give credit to him and thanks. And I know he'll be critiquing me today, so I'm looking forward to that as well. But he has started responding to texts. And I told people the other day, I said, that's the first time ever, either somebody's got his phone or he's learned how to text. And that makes all of us in his little circle of friends proud because we get to reach out to him. We're dealing with new challenges this year. We don't have a chip on our shoulder in terms of people trying to use that as motivation. I've never used a failure from the previous year as motivation, and I've never used the success of a previous year as motivation. We won't do that this year. That's not who we are. We want to recreate ourselves, to say, in the best light we can. And this team has been fun to coach. I tell people all the time, we had 15 really tough spring practices, and that includes the spring game. I probably would only trade one of those in and say, could I do it over? That we got a lot out of those. I enjoy being on the grass with this group. They're fun to be with, have a great locker room. They love each other, and they're working their butt off right now. We have 4 new coaches. That's a new challenge for us. I don't think we've had a situation where we had 4 new coaches. We got 4 new coaches coming in. I'm excited about the energy they brought, the buy-in they brought, learning our culture and how we do things at our place. Some have been with us before. Some have been similar places, but I'm really excited about the 4 new coaches we got, and being able to retain Coach Muschamp was incredible because he's still an integral part of our program, and he's also going to be able to watch his son play for Clark at Vanderbilt. So I'm excited about that. You know, every offseason we do a study and we try to find something to look outside of football to kind of redefine ourselves and recenter, and it's great for me. You know, I really think it's good to study successful people, whether that's in the sports industry or whether that's in the business industry. And this year we took Nike, who I've had the great pleasure of meeting Phil Knight and his wonderful wife Penny, and I wish I could get some of that NIL money that he's sharing with Dan Lanning, but that's another note. But the study of Nike for us has been incredible. I didn't know some of the things about when Nike originated, and we took a week-by-week look in skull sessions, breakout sessions, as well as together, and studied kind of their model. And one of the first things we studied was the belief of assume nothing. And I think that's so important in football. Because when you assume something, or you assume you know someone, or you assume that you know somebody's name that you're in the room with, you can take things for granted. It's just like starting over from a previous year. Assume nothing. Assume nothing. Start from ground zero and build this team different than every other team. And Nike did that. Nike followed that. They assumed nothing. Where does a name come from? So if you assume that you know everybody's name, you may not know what that name means. We had each player get up in front of the team, say what their first and middle and last name and where that came from. I encourage you, if you've never done that exercise in an organization, do it. Because you learn more about somebody when you know what they got their name from and what it stands for, and what it meant in their family, what it meant in their lineage. It's very important, and you get a lot of deep conversations to know somebody better, which when you're on the field with somebody, and you go to battle with somebody out on the field, you better be able to know what their reasoning is. And I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed our study of Nike as we went through. So with that, I want to be able to be judgmental of you guys' time and answer any questions you have, so I'll open it up from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Seth, Diego, or Nolan will get a microphone to you. We do ask that you give your name and affiliation prior to your question. So if we'll start over here, right here on the front row to our left, Coach, in the very front row.
Good morning, Coach. Michael Gittens with the War Report. In this new SEC, Georgia got a pretty tough road draw. You've got Alabama on the road, you've got Texas on the road, you've got Ole Miss on the road, you also have Kentucky on the road. Can you talk about your road schedule and how you're preparing your team for this tough 2024 schedule?
Yeah, initially I was wondering how I got that draw, you know, but we're not one to complain. We're one to be excited. I think when you step into the shoes of a University of Georgia football player, you accept that that challenge is going to be there. I mean, we kind of embrace that, and we love it. I mean, and what you didn't get to mention is that we open with Clemson, too, who's one of the top teams in the top programs in the country. So, like, we're really excited about that. I think that motivates our off season so that we have the right kind of approach to the offseason, and you know, our guys embrace that. I mean, as coaches, you want to play the best, and people forget that when you spent time in the NFL, every week was like that. So when Texas and Oklahoma came into the conference, every schedule was going to get harder. It wasn't going to get easier, it was going to get harder, and we embrace that. We look forward to it, and excited for the challenge to go to some really tough places.
Okay, Coach, we'll go right down the center aisle, right here on the near aisle.
Coach Smart, Drew DeArmond, WCZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama. Much like your mentor, Nick Saban, when you compete at the highest level, you do have staff changes. You mentioned the 4 guys you brought in. What was your thoughts on bringing in Travarius Robinson, and what does he bring to your staff?
Well, first of all, he has a great pedigree as a player. He played in the SEC, and one of the things you can never really justify or explain to people is the culture of the SEC. Number one, recruiting. It's tough, it's hard, it's cutthroat, and you don't have experience in those battles, it's hard to win those battles. He was a really good player. He played for Coach Tuberville, who has a lot of stories about T-Rob and the great job he's done. I've always recruited against him and had respect for him on the road, the way he carries himself, the way he presents himself, the fact he worked for Coach Muschamp. They have a great relationship. Coach Muschamp vouched for him and talked about the great job he's done, and he's brought in a tremendous energy into our secondary, which is a young secondary. And he got the valuable time that he got to spend over with Coach Saban in Alabama, which is invaluable in terms of knowing how our program operates. So I'm excited to have T-Rob, his family. He's got wonderful family, and I know he's excited to be with us.
Coach, we'll go to the section just to your right. No.
Yeah, Coach, Brooks Austin with Dogs Daily. You mentioned that moment UAB with Carson Beck. And when he reflects on that moment, he thought of it as an opportunity to say, hey, I'm not quite ready for this. I need to continue to develop. Stuck around for a couple more years before he was a starter. Is that a repeatable trait or a common trait maybe you can look for in future athletes that you recruit? Because it's important nowadays. Guys leave when they don't have an opportunity to play, but this is a very unique example. Is it something you might be able to replicate in the future?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to replicate the DNA he has with which to respond to adversity that way. Like, I don't know, as you go recruit a kid, staying power is really important now, because I don't think there's a huge difference in the players we recruit. It's a difference when they stay in your program. So the retention is really critical, because we think the process we go through of the off-field training, the on-field training, the weight room training, the football training is going to pay off in the years they've been there. Carson's a great example of that. All those years of practice and third down and pressure periods and blitz pickups paid off when he got to start. It's not to say he wasn't ready, UAB. He may have been ready. We felt like Stetson gave us the best chance to win that game, and he played lights out that game and never really looked back after that. Who's to say that Carson might not have done the same thing, but he certainly responded the right way, and I wish we could kind of inject a chip and say that every kid had that response, but we know that's not going to be the case.
Coach, we'll go back over here to our far left on the front row.
Hey, Coach. Graham Coffey, DogCentral.com. When you look at your schedule and the potential of playing 16, 17 games, do you think that will change how you guys manage maybe a lead or trying to get guys out of games earlier? And will it add any importance to the overall strength of your roster?
Improve any, what was the ending part of that?
The overall strength and depth on your roster, just from 1 to 85.
Playing the schedule we play in improving the strength of the roster, I don't know if that's the case. I think the way we go about practicing is critical. I believe in having a physical, tough camp. I don't think you back off from that. If you do, it may not matter about those games. If you're not physical enough at the line of scrimmage and you're not tough enough and you don't demand excellence, because during the season there's only so much we can do to create the toughness that we need at the line of scrimmage and the toughness we need as an overall football team. Camp is tough. And I think that's important that it remains tough. We do have to be smart to stay healthy. We have certain areas of our team that we maybe have more depth than others, and you got to be smart and calculated about the risk you take of losing guys. But I think every coach is reflecting right now saying, okay, we may have a longer schedule. We certainly have a tougher schedule. How we play games is played to win. And how we play at the end of the games, if we have leads, we've always looking to get guys opportunity and grow players, a la Carson Beck getting into a lot of games when he was behind Stetson, so that they're ready when their opportunity comes.
Which will go down the mid-aisle, over here on section in front of me, about 3/4 of the way back.
Hey, Coach. Rafael Cruz, Dog Time, and Lake Oconee News. You lost 3 senior leaders in Javon Bullard to Tyke Smith and Kamari Lassiter in the secondary. Who are some of the guys that are stepping in this offseason that you're excited about competing for those starting spots?
Yeah, first off, I'll correct you there. 2 of those guys were actually juniors. They weren't seniors, and that's what really gets your program when you lose 2 juniors in one room that are excellent players and have been unbelievable kids within our program, and they love football. Now, they came to every practice this spring, and they were getting ready to get drafted, and they were at every practice cheering on guys, coaching guys, the right kind of guys to have around your program. So they're tough losses. We've got some good, young, talented players in the secondary. It's going to be really important they grow up fast. They're going to go against a really high-tempo offense in Clemson to start with. Our job is to prepare them. They get to go against a really good offense day in and day out with Carson Beck. So I'm excited about the guys we have in that room, and they'll step up to play. We have some experience at the safety position between Dan and Malachi, but it'll be the nickel position and the depth at those positions that's really critical.
Going to the section right to your right, again on the aisle.
Anwar Richardson, Orange Bloods. Hey, Coach, how do you navigate the world of NIL where you have to participate in it to be competitive, but you also have players who lead with that and they just want to get paid? What are your conversations like with recruits and current players, and how do you navigate it all?
Well, I think it's a mistake to assume that all players lead with that or that's the primary objective. I think that would be an insult to high school football players and really insult to all people being recruited, because I don't get to the finish line of official visits where that's the primary objective. If it is, we're probably not getting to that point. We're probably not going to be in the conversation if that's the primary objective. Is that one of the key decision makers? Yes. And should it be? Yes. I'm happy that these kids get an opportunity to improve their situation or make money and give back to their families, or in some cases, their communities. So that doesn't bother me at all. I have no problem navigating that. I've gotten less attached and said, you know what, if it's better for that young man because of a financial difference between us and another school, I respect that decision and opinion they have to make. I have to worry about the players that we do get. Okay, and I worry about the ones that we do sign, that they're the right kind of kids and they're coming for the right reason. That includes money, but it's not just money.
Okay, we'll go down the center aisle and the section in front of me.
Oh, John High, Fox 7 Austin. Coach, you mentioned wanting to play the best. You have Texas this year. Do you consider them to be one of the best, and what stands out to you about them?
Every team we play is the best that week. Please understand that. In the SEC, humility is a week away. I have a ton of respect for Sark and the job he does. We got to watch them play last year against several common opponents. Got to watch them play in the playoffs. They have a tremendous recruiting base. They do a tremendous job in recruiting. That includes NIL and everything included in that. So they're a big physical team. They're built like an SEC football team. So we're looking forward to an opportunity to come play them, and what a tremendous matchup it'll be.
Okay, we'll go over here again to our left, second row.
Hey, Coach. Peter Radicus from AO.com. What kind of impact did the Auburn game have on you guys' season last year, and what kind of challenges did that Auburn team and that new staff pose for y'all?
Well, let's start with this. Auburn is one of the hardest places to play in the world. And I know that from 25 years of being a common opponent at Georgia and Alabama. When you step in that stadium, you better be laced up, strapped up, and ready to go, regardless of their record, regardless of the expectation, regardless of what the people in Vegas say. You better be ready to play. And I think Hugh does a tremendous job motivating his team. He does a tremendous job in the recruiting asset. And as he gets more and more of his players and his style of play in there, which he got some guys this year, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But that game helped give us confidence that we could play from behind. It also let us know that we're vulnerable in some areas, and we had to improve on those. So I enjoyed playing in that venue. I always have. It's one of the toughest places to go play.
Coach, we'll go straight in front of me, the section. Kirk.
Excuse me, Kirk Bowles from the Houston Chronicle. With the 12-team playoff coming up, do you worry about attrition, because two teams will play at least 17 games? And do you think maybe abolishing the conference championship game for all leagues would help the matter?
I'm not for doing that. I still find value in winning an SEC championship. The unique thing about the career that I've had in coaching, I've almost won as many SEC championships as national championships, and I've won 2 national championships when I didn't win SEC championships as a program. I mean, that's unique. I mean, it's not supposed to happen that way. So do I worry about attrition in terms of having more games? I worry about attrition having 4 teams. Okay, every coach worries about attrition, right? You have to do a good job of maintaining your roster, staying healthy, practicing the right way, being smart, and I think being a watchdog is part of my job. As I'm not a coordinator anymore, I want to watch the drills we do. I want to see how we practice. I want to make sure we can maintain health. It's hard to do in the SEC, but that's why you get an opportunity to recruit to 85 scholarships so that you have depth. Can you get your younger players ready faster than your opponent is a huge advantage. But no, I don't want to see the conference championship go away, because I think it's one of the greatest venues in all of college sports, in all of sports. I mean, the games that we've played in Atlanta have been some of the best, most memorable games that I've ever been a part of. And to take that away, I think that there's going to be teams that look back on that SEC championship, and it's very meaningful. And I don't want to take away from that meaning.
All right, we'll go over here on our left along the aisle.
Lawrence Holmes, 670 The Score, Chicago. Kirby, your defenses throughout your whole career have been incredibly innovative. I was wondering, with offenses evolving, do you react to them or do you want them to react to you? And where do you go for the inspiration? Do you go forward or do you go all the way back to the beginning of the game?
That's a long question that I could spend a lot of time on, and I learned a lot from the defensive guy in the back of the room back there that you're always adapting. You have to adjust to them, but you have to dictate to them as well. If you sit back nowadays and let offenses dictate to you, they can do enough things to drive down the field and be explosive and make big plays and score quickly that it can become frustrating. You have to have ways to create negative plays. I think every defensive coach would say that. But I do think looking forward and backwards is really important. We have a relatively young defensive coordinator in Glenn Schumann who spends more time on Zooms. He loves talking football. He spends time with NFL coaches, high school coaches. Some of the best ideas we've ever gotten defensively came from great high school minds in the state that we were coaching in because they came up with really innovative ideas because they defend these offenses sometimes before we do. And I've always been enamored with that in-game adjustment of what we can give a kid or give a defense to help them against something they're doing. You're always reacting, but you do want to dictate at times too by the way you pressure and the things you do.
We'll take one final question in the center aisle, about 3/4 of the way back.
Coach Joe Gaither, BamaCentral.com. You've played a lot of great games against the University of Alabama in your time. How do you expect those matchups to change with Coach Kalen DeBoer in charge?
I don't expect them to change. That's two great universities. I mean, you're talking about two teams that have been at the forefront of college football, and it's probably going to be that way for a long time. Both great universities, both committed. The commitment to excellence at both places is really high. The standard that Coach created there at Alabama and the standard we've created, those two are going to be matching up for a long time, and I think it's what's great about college athletics.
Coach, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Kevin.